Travis winged it, so I'm still in the mood for sleep. Simply because I'm awake, I'm in the mood for sleep. Good old Julie London. Alright, Genesis chapter 24. The Sunday school lesson to save your lives. Because we're in the latter days, and that's what the Bible's all about. Our apocalyptic literature for the latter days. As I keep trying to explain for you. And so we're going to get to exclusive material that will not be covered by the church. Jesus Christ of the wrong God. Yeah, Jesus wasn't their God. How in the world can you say that Amen El of Isaiah is Jesus? Because the Jews don't see Jesus as their Christ. What are you thinking? You're putting in anachronisms, imposing it on the original religion. Just like Mormons do to Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith's church was exactly the way it is now. No! So, 24 to 27. And it's unfortunate, because if you're going to bring up the latter days with Esau and Jacob and their battle to the death, you have to talk about the new name. Cut it off. And that's an error. But first we go to the first phi. If you remember the videos I was doing talking about the countdown to the phi, and nothing happened, and now we have the fall countdown of the moon to Ash Wednesday, which is the fulfillment of the phi, the Great War. And the coming of the human Christ that comes through the seed of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Ephraim, and then a tangent through Judah, Utah, phonetically the same. And so we start with Abraham doing the phi with his servant to make sure that Isaac marries a Hittite. Am I correct on this? I did a brief overview yesterday. Yeah, Rebekah. Yeah, we're coming to it. Yeah, she's a Hittite. That's the Great and Abominable Church. You guys are Egyptian. But that's the whole point, is the author is using historical context to talk about apocalyptic literature. So you're not supposed to look for a man named Isaac. No, you're looking for sun god. That's the name of the guy you're looking for, Mormons. You're not looking for somebody who's a Hittite. You're looking for somebody in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that murdered Joseph Smith and usurped his church and called it with a different god name. That's what the prophecies are all about. But the author, in the Roman period, when the Bible was written, is using the Egyptian documents with his Babylonian assimilated traditions to tell us a coded meaning or hidden if you don't know what coded means. Dear God. Upwards of 150,000 views of Mormons just simply because he put hidden. There's a hidden timeline for the latter days in the Word of Wisdom. You'd rather watch that video than somebody who's an expert in this subject matter. Oh, you're boring, Travis. You need to entertain us. You know, I was told that. I was taking a seminary class to learn how to be a seminary teacher, and the teacher, who was the seminary leader guy for Alberta, was telling me that it would be great if we could take the teenagers directly to the scriptures and discuss the scriptures in depth, going over the original language and the meaning and the culture. That would be ideal. I really wanted to do that too. But instead we have manuals, and you just read the manual. What? It's like wanting to be a journalist, and so you make Anchor so that you can read from a script. That's where the big bucks are. Reading from a script. Looking pretty. But yeah, the way that's set up is that teenagers apparently can't have attention span for actual scriptures. That's too boring. All this sex, violence is boring for teenagers. They'd rather be entertained with spiritual stuff and spiritual metaphors and testimony sharing. That'll get their attention. I want to go back to bed. Alright, where were we? Where am I? What am I doing here? This is not my house. This is not my wife. These aren't my kids. Where are they? Oh yeah. They left. So, I don't understand why. I guess it's because I'm boring going over sex and violence in the scriptures. I'm in the mood for sleep. Simply. So, yeah, Abraham is described as being old, and so the kingdom must be passed on to his son. If you're unfamiliar with that, I refer you to facsimile number 3, because here is the chapter 24, but Joseph Smith never got around to it. And so yes, there are some errors in there. Should we do that first, or should we go over this first? Do you want the entertaining part first, or do you want the sex and violence first? You want the spiritual stuff? So, yeah, Abraham and the servant, and I've gone over this when I did the thigh countdown. It's the servant has to place his hand under the thigh of Abraham and swear that the seed of Abraham through Isaac is going to be through the right woman. And if we were to restore this, it would have to be the sister of Isaac. Abraham chapter 1, it's right there. And Joseph Smith is explaining to us why Canaan is cursed for Ham seeing Noah naked. Because the Jews don't know what that means. They're like, let's not talk about it. Let's move on. Oh, Tamar and Judah? Let's not talk about that either. We don't understand it. We're not. It has to do with the latter days, guys. Latter days. It's right there in the Egyptian documents. So, same thing with marrying the sisters to secure the bloodline, the Holy Grail. That's where the bloodline originated. The Holy Grail is in Egypt. You missed it, Indiana Jones. Well, that was the Ark of the Covenant, but yeah, that's the same metaphoric symbolism. I'm in the mood for sleep. And so that's why family is required, as while uploading this morning's video, saw the episode where Charlie Sheen's dad, Martin Sheen, was the father of Rose. Yeah. And he turned out to be crazy too. Alrighty. So, I see on that show what they wanted to have done. It just horribly went wrong, as Charlie Sheen had to go into rehab, and so they killed him off on the show and then put that Ashton Kutcher guy in. But I see what they were doing with Rose and how she played a big overarching theme, being a master of psycho. But anyway, I'm only in season 3. Got a long way to go. And so that's what's going on here. And so the servant finds, moving on, and so the servant goes to the family, he goes to Mesopotamia. Yeah, Hittites. The Hittites. That's not family. And again, if you don't understand that the time frame that the author in the Roman period is referring to is the David-Moses dynasty of the 18th pharaonic family group. And so the Hittites are involved a lot here, as well as the Syrians and cedars of Lebanon, is for that very reason that when you make alliances or end wars, if it were to happen that the United States, President Biden, makes peace with Putin, there would be an offering of Putin's daughter, to Biden's son. That's the cultural tradition that is long gone in our day and time. Would give MAGA and Fox 13 News, or Fox News, a whole bunch of scandals to bitch and moan about on their news. Hunter! But yeah, that's exactly what the author is not putting in, if this were to be a literal history, is that David Moses IV, Dawut Mose IV, is the pharaoh who went into a campaign up into Israel to push the Hittites back, and Armageddon, Har Megiddo, the mountains of Megiddo, in that little valley there. And so yeah, there's war strategy that's known from the literal history of that account. But yeah, this is where the story of King David and Bathsheba comes from. Uriah is a Hittite. What do you know? And so yeah, all of this is being alluded to, but this is not a literal history. This is apocalyptic literature. The names are symbolic. They mean something. Abraham now being called Abraham with the additional H for the flail, which is Epsilon, yeah. I don't want to mix it with Edda. And that's the pharaonic flail and the shepherd's crook that is over their deceased bodies, or portrayed in pictures. And is the because I know you are all excited about this. In Aramaic, the Aramaic Aleph is that flail and crook, as I'm the one who deciphered it. So aren't you just excited and thrilled? Wow, cool. I'm going to stick to the end of this 5-hour video, Travis. I hope it doesn't go that long. I really don't. I am so tired. And I can't go to sleep because I slept like 8 hours. It's just one of those things. And so what you're looking at here is the symbolism of the bloodline to restore the church that has been destroyed and conquered, because you got to think in terms of Egyptian here. Osiris, the good, righteous king of Egypt, is murdered by his brother, who usurps the birthright blessing and the kingdom from Osiris, and chases Isis, Osiris's wife, into the wilderness. And of course I'm using the Greek pronunciations rather than the Egyptian ones, but Horus is the child conceived in Isis that has to flee into the wilderness with his mom, where he's born and raised in the wilderness, and then when he's of age, he goes back to Egypt to do battle with Set, his uncle, to restore the throne. And so we have in this lesson Jacob and Esau. It's a reverse usurpation, because Jacob usurped the birthright blessing just as Set usurped the birthright blessing, but in the manner in which the birthright and blessing are usurped is the manner in which Horus usurped it back from Set. And so Jacob, even though he's Satan, Paleo-Hebrew, Set, with the suffix determinative. Isn't this exciting? Suffix determinative for the N is for kings. So King Set, Satan, which is adversary in Hebrew. And yet, Jacob becomes the bloodline through which the Christ that is going to do exactly what he did to Esau is going to do in the latter days. Thus, apocalyptic literature with what they're trying to teach. There's a multitudinalness of lessons to be learned from these Bible stories. So if you're just going to say this is literal history, have fun in ignorance, because you ain't going to be saved in ignorance, right, Mormons? But you need to know the Egyptian story from which this is based, and what the author is trying to inform us for the latter days, which is right now. We are now in it. And so yes, we can easily see and place the fulfillment, because we now know, because it's happening in real time. The Armageddon War has occurred, but not in Israel, because even the Jews, the Jerusalem Post, they keep wary of the war in Ukraine turning on Israel. They're paranoid about something giving rise to an attack on Jews. And so they're aware of Christians and their belief that Jerusalem is supposed to be the center of war. And so they're concerned, are the Christians going to turn on us and seek to destroy us? With the belief that their Jesus is going to come in the midst and convert us to Christianity. They're paranoid of this, and for good reason. For 2 millennia, the Jews have been persecuted, tortured, and destroyed, and moved from country to country throughout Europe. And so, yeah, even though it's in Magog, Ukraine and Russia, the Jews are still concerned that it's going to turn on them somehow. But John in Revelation, no. Apocalyptic literature does not merge reality with fantasy. That's not how it works. It's all fantasy. You're supposed to decode it to know what is to happen in the future. And it's the same here. Don't get caught up merging literal history with the dragons and the beasts and the horsemen of the apocalypse. All that stuff. And so likewise with the story of Moses and the Exodus. I mean, dear God, everybody wants to prove that it's literal history. And so they all make stuff up. Oh yeah, the volcano that erupted at the wrong time period caused a tsunami that dried the soil for them to cross on, rather than leaving it as mud. You're missing the point of the story. And so, yeah, as much as this is written by the author as to be realistic, so is War of the Worlds. And as it was read on the radio, everybody thought it was real. We're under attack! Aliens! They're destroying us! And so, yeah, he became popular thanks to his reading of his book on the radio. On the radio, on the radio. And so, yeah, you got to pay attention, because the author is purposely telling you, I'm naming these people for a reason. So, a well of water. Oh, Moses had a well of water. Jesus had a well of water. See the patterns? The daughters of the men of the city came out to draw water. So yes, this was still being practiced during the Roman period. And notice it's plural, because the laws of Hammurabi from Assyria, old Assyria, had to figure out a way to protect women from getting raped. And so if a woman was alone outside of the walls of the city, and a man comes and rapes her, even if she cries out for help, the law says, well, you shouldn't have been outside the walls of the city alone. You have to be with other women in order to have justice in the courts. Whereas if you're in the walls of the city, you're considered within listening distance. And so when you say that you cried for help, Joseph arrested for sexually assaulting Potiphar's wife, yeah, well, she was in the city, and that's what that's referring to here. And so, yes, the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And so these are cultural stuff that you're going to miss if you're living in our current day and time and thinking that that's the same way it's always been, just like Joseph Smith. It's the same church as we have now. Nothing's changed. It's all the same. You're wrong. And so, interestingly, Jesus' well was a multiple married woman. I perceive you're a prophet. Yeah, the prophet who fails. Oops. And so the servant sees these girls and then prays, O Lord God of my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day, and shew kindness unto my master Abraham. And so, yeah, and he's making a deal with God here. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass, I'll make you a deal, that the damsel to whom I shall say, let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink. And she shall say, drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. Let the same be she that thou hast appointed for my servant Isaac. You made a thigh oath. And so now you're making it so that she has to do a coded communication back. And I saw this in Hawkins' Heroes. Remember when I was watching that? You know, they'd escaped from Stalag 13 that has never had an escape to meet with the underground, and they would have the specific coded communication. Oh, the seagulls are flying nice today. I prefer the bunny rabbits. You know, that wasn't, but you get the point. He's doing it here. It all comes from the Bible. And so Rebekah comes out. And yeah, you got to remove vowels. You're going to get confused if you leave in the vowels. Rebekah. Or the syllabus on the hypopaxil, whatever it is. Rebekah. But she is born to Bethuel. And I'm willing to bet that it is not, let's see, 24:15. And Westminster, Leningrad. Yep. She's the daughter of the house of God, the temple. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Joseph comes to her at the temple to buy her, so that she can take care of his children, because the wife died. But that's not in our Bible, is it? Yeah, but she's the daughter of the temple. Samson. Not a good one. Others. Samuel. He is born, given to the temple. Eli. God. The temple is the house of God, Eli. Literally. I mean, talk about your blatant metaphors. That it's not a real story, not a literal history. And so this concept of women being sacral prostitutes of the great and abominable church, because it's not the real house of God, the real temple in Jerusalem. It's the Hittite one, because her father is a Hittite. And they don't mention it here. It's later on. And so, yeah, that's what's being referred to here, is the concept of Heavenly Father impregnating the queen, and she gives birth to the son who is to restore the kingdom. 18th dynasty with Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut of the 18th dynasty. You know, the female pharaoh standing behind Abraham in facsimile number 3. Why can't Egyptologists figure that one out? And so, that's not his real name. It's not a literal history. Don't do the genealogy like my mom did. In Mormonism, we do genealogy, and people do research, and lots of Mormons connect into the European royalty, and the European royalty had created their genealogy to show that they're the bloodline through Jesus Christ, back to King David, back to Abraham, all the way back to Adam. It's all a lie, because none of the Bible characters are real. But they're trying to impress upon the people that they are the chosen ones. And so my mom is big on, or was, she's dead now, died on winter solstice, December 21st, at 77 years old. Very weird. What is God up to? Still haven't quite figured that one out. But nonetheless, big in genealogy, only for her family, despite the reason why she married my dad. Because otherwise she would not. He was a Democrat. She's Nazi MAGA Mormon. Who believed that Saddam Hussein caused 9/11. Dear God. But nonetheless, she did a temple card printout using the whole genealogical thing. And so, yes, big old piles of cards printed up at the temple. So she takes them back and is going through them and comes across Jacob. And yep, it's Jacob of the Bible. So his work needed to be done. Temple Ready program said so. So poor quality of computer programmers we have in the genealogy program. The church doesn't hire professionals, they hire family. And it's amazing the church is as filthy rich as they are with all the money that they're losing. But I guess when you're trillionaires, a few million here or there is no big deal. I saved the church millions redesigning their warehouse at Beehive clothing manufacturing place. And yeah, okay, great. Okay, you're fired, Travis. They didn't fire me, but they pushed me out. And it most likely had to do with who moved my cheese. Yeah, my resistance to that book being forced upon us and calling it a satanic literature, and how horrifying it is that the church is using that book on their employees. You know, it's where a psycho is using mice as a metaphor for humans. Yes, all humans are rodents. And as a psycho, he tortures the mouse for his experimentation. You know, like human torturing. Oh, we can't do human torture? Well, we'll torture mice as if they were human. And so, yeah, he does the Pavlov dog thing where he puts the mice into a maze and he has to get to the cheese. And then gets him addicted to knowing how to get to the cheese. And then, oh, no more cheese. Yeah, you were salivating and I rang the bell. No cheese. Screw you, humans. So, yeah, that's how evil that book is. And the church was using it on us, the employees. And so I had some choice words in opposition. And so, yes, I had to go. Not the church stopped using that book. Nonetheless, House of God. And he's the son of the king. Is this for real? Took down the 24, huh? That would be something. See, it's Milcah. Yeah, it is. I'll be son of the king. Huh. Go figure. That's cool. The house of God, son of the king. You see what they're doing here? And so Abraham's brother is his wife, the king's wife. And so thus part of the family. With her pitcher upon her shoulder. That's not quite, because the pitchers of water would be very heavy. And so what they had was a version of a yoke that's put on oxen to pull the plow, to plant the fields, or to push carts. And so humans would have a version of it as well, and they would hang the water pitchers from that, rather than just carrying it like a Greek goddess who's naked as a sculpture. But you can see the author using the time period for this, but nonetheless, the damsel was very fair to look upon. Orrin Hatch, you bleep bleep. I drink beer. I drink a lot of beer. Do you drink beer? Boys like beer. Girls like beer. We all like beer. And Orrin Hatch. She's very pleasing to the eyes. Oh my God! He sent me a letter saying, I thank you for your comments, but Kavanaugh is my bestest buddy. He's a good man, and he's going to be the judge. So screw you. Oh my God. He did not get rid of him fast enough, but he did his damage for the church. And so yes, notice she's Virgo. The daughter of the temple. No man has known her. Right, Joseph? What is she doing pregnant? With Pharaoh's baby, Abraham? Are you sure this is immaculate? See, again, you can see the pattern that is being done here. It has to do with the star date that Isaiah talks about, that John in Revelation goes into exact detail for the precise day and hour, Matthew. Which you yourself talk about. And so, isn't this fun? And sure enough, she does the code. What a surprise. I was really worried there. I wasn't sure she was going to say the right words. And I think she's the one who lets off a camel. Because there's camels being talked about all over the place here. And so the daughter of the temple of the king. Now, alright, so I've prepared. And he says, I am Abraham's servant. Surprise! It's not me you're marrying. And the Lord hath blessed my master greatly. He has become great. Yeah, he's Pharaoh, sitting on the throne of Pharaoh in facsimile number 3. And he hath given him flocks and herds and silver and gold. Silver and gold. And so yes, it's the 18th dynasty Pharaoh, portrayed as Abraham, who makes the peace agreement with the Hittites and gets the daughter for his son. That's the literal history that's going on here as the backstory. And so Sarah, my master's wife, bare a son to my master when she was old. Yeah, old in the sense of the latter days. Omega, sunrise, sunset. This whole concept is supposed to take place in the latter days. And thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of the Canaanites, the Egyptians. The one who's punished for Ham, which is Egypt, the masculine version, Kim, with the Edda, seeing Noah naked. But go into my father's house, which is the queen, Bathsheba, the house of Sheba, the queen of Sheba. And then you have Pharaoh's daughter. No, you have Pharaoh's house, which is the queen. Daughters don't take care of kids all by themselves. And so, yeah, you can see the author's errors, but he's telling a story for the latter days. And so this is of the great and abominable church here. We're all the human race, but the king has an arrangement with the Hittites for a Hittite daughter for his son, through whom the birthright blessing bloodline comes through. All having to do with that thigh, that extra rib. I didn't get to talk about the rib, did I? Yeah, this was not something I was thinking I was going to have time to do for you. Because the church destroyed me, because I caught on to their plot to prevent the usurper of the usurper and restore the original. Alright, and so then he says, it was a spiritual thing, and you fell right into my trap, so you must marry him now. Okay. And she put the earring on her face. If it's an earring, why are you putting it on the face? What are you doing? And I keep emphasizing the daughter of Bethuel over and over again. They keep repeating that. Whom milked the king bear unto him. And so, yeah, Laban, they throw him in. The sword of Laban shall not be sheathed again until we conquer America. Oh my God, that was a bombshell. Thank you, my awesome viewers, subscribers. David, specifically. That was awesome, dude. So Laban, he's related here. Do we show how he's related? Not yet. Then Laban and the temple answered and said, the thing proceedeth from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee good or bad. Yeah, sorry, dear. You're going to be Pharaoh's son's wife, and then you'll usurp the Egyptian religion. And in the latter days, the Mormon will rise up to restore the Egyptian religion. Alright, so yeah, lots of rambling on for the story here. And the servant is paying for her, the bride price. The bride price or bribe price. That was awesome. The reboot with the female Kung Fu. I think it was called Kung Fu, wasn't it? On CW. They were all at the table discussing the bride price. And the chosen one gets up all upset, storms out. That was awesome. So, silver and gold. More stuff to stick in her face. If you don't want to kiss a woman, just tell her. Don't give her jewelry to stick on her face. And there she lighted off a camel. And so she's a smoker and a face piercer. Like the witch in the episode of 2.5 Men I saw yesterday. That cursed both Charlie and Alan. Oh my god. I guess Jake. And of course Mother saved the day. Oh my god. Okay. And so he loved her. Oh, he didn't know her? He loved her, huh? They didn't get married in the temple yet. What's going on? Haroy, South Country. Isaac went out to meditate and then saw the camels coming. And she lit off a camel. The field to meet us. And the servant had said, "Is my master." She took the veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things he had done. Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. That is the cultural tradition, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. Okay, good. You put that in. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. My mother's dead. Just saying. My comfort is a different kind of comfort, though. Alrighty. And so it wasn't in the temple, was it? It was at a tent. Which then gives us another... Well, they're talking about a time period where there was no temple in Jerusalem yet. King David IV, David Moses IV, had not done the Armageddon battle to push back the Hittites, and then go on vacation during the midst of that battle, to go to Jerusalem and there have sex with Bathsheba, the wife of the Hittite, and give birth to a child who dies, and then give birth to Solomon, the King of Peace. Alright, and so chapter 25, Abraham takes wife number 3, Keturah. So the first wife was Sarai, who becomes Sarah, but she gets pregnant from Pharaoh to give birth to Yitzhak, and then because she couldn't give Abraham a child, Abraham was given her servant Hagar, who gives birth to Ishmael, and so Sarah complains that Hagar is mocking her because she doesn't have a kid, and so she banishes them from the family, and then mocks that she's having a kid, Isaac. Mocking laughter. Do not read the footnotes. They're wrong. It's mocking laughter. Even Jews don't want to admit mocking laughter. They don't see how the play on words is taking place, or they don't like it that Sarah was mocking about being pregnant, as we went over that last week. Pharaoh comes unto thee to tell thee, you are now pregnant with my baby that I had when you were a part of my harem. Because Abraham couldn't give you a kid, guess what? You're now pregnant with my kid. And oh, by the way, we're going to destroy Sodom. We've got a campaign. We're on our way to destroy Sodom, but, you know, like King David, we're here to tell you you're pregnant with the sun god who came from outer space to immaculately conceive. That's the all part of the same story, guys. That's why it keeps repeating, with different characters and slightly different storylines, but the underlining theme is all exactly the same. And so the Abraham let's see, Abraham gives up the ghost. He dies, and so he's buried in the land of the Hittites, up in Turkey. Are you looking for the right place for his burial, guys? The Cave of Abraham, Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite. Hittite land, guys. Abraham is buried in a cave in Turkey. So there you go, archaeologists. Find it. Prove me right. Abraham is real. It's all literal history. And Sarah also. Both of them. Yay. Alright. And so the generations, which are only the names of the men, which means it's not the generations, it's the priesthood line of the bloodline, the seed line. And thus the reason why generations is used, because gen has to do with biological offspring. That is the meaning. Do not change the meaning of gen. And so Rebekah Now he's a Syrian. Here it is. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Beth, the house of God, the temple, the Syrian. So if you don't know the genealogy, or the map of Israel, you have Israel, and then you have Lebanon, which is, a little segment up on the northwest, and then Syria, and then the Hittite land of Turkey up above that. And they're not quite Mesopotamian, though it's in Mesopotamia. They are a completely different culture. Yeah, it's very interesting, showing how the Syrians were encroaching in this, because King David Moses the Fourth, Tawut Moshe the Fourth, pushed back the Hittites up into Turkey and was able to restore the land of Egypt, of Canaan, all the way to the Euphrates River. And so the passage in the Bible that talks about the prophecy that Abraham will possess the land from the Nile River to the Euphrates, yeah, that was under David Moses the Fourth, Tawut Moshe. And David does it, but Jews don't recognize him as Pharaoh. They want him to be the king of Israel. Okay, guys, but you're not going to find him, because you've already found him, but he's not from Jerusalem. He was only there for a vacation during Armageddon. You gotta accept science. You can't allow your religion to bias history and mess up your scripture. And so, yeah, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. Aliens. The one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So it's already prophesied. They're setting it up here. And there is patterns, because as babies they are Set and Horus, Cain and Abel. And so Jacob is the bad guy, villain. He's Satan, Set, Cain. But there is no murder of Esau. He conquers and takes back the birthright blessing. And so there's a merging of the 2 stories into one, and it's a story technique that's being used here to remind us of the original and about the oath for the restoration of the original. And so Esau's heel, yeah, that's Achilles' heel, where he is shot by an arrow at Troy, trying to defend Diane Kruger. Did Bigfoot take it? And so Brad Pitt loses the battle, but she apparently escapes with her king, her prince, who becomes king. But that's the story version. But yeah, the garden story with the serpent. He shall have power to bite thy heel, but ye shall have power to crush his head. That's all about the latter days and the battle of the latter days. And that's what's being used in imagery here. And so instead of a serpent biting your heel, you have Jacob holding on to the heel of his brother. And Gemini is a part of this, as I've gone over with you over the years. And the boys grew. Esau was a cunning hunter. So they're now making him Cain, although Abel was the keeper of the flocks, and Cain, or Abel, yeah, Abel or Cain was the plant man, the fruit guy. I'm struggling. So yeah, Esau is the cunning hunter, a man of the field, dealing with the animals, as Abel was. And Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents, with the farm and trees and fruit and stuff. And so it's weird that they don't just put in the Egyptian story, because of all the confusion that has cost us for these 2 millennia. But they're trying to tell a story in a different manner, because I guess the Egyptian story was boring. Our story is going to be cooler. And so Isaac loved Esau, just as Ammon loved Set. That was his favorite son. And so, yeah, Horus had a real struggle to try to convince Ammon that he was to succeed on the throne. And so Rebekah, Isis symbol, is the one who sides with Jacob, who is Horus in this particular instance. And so you see that the battle has begun, as they skip right to the end of it with the pottage. It was not pottage in the Egyptian story. It was a salad with special sauce that impregnated Set to give birth to the branch. And Ammon saw the baby branch, the twig, and said, "Oh, okay, Horus is the winner. Congratulations, Horus, get out of here. Set, get thee hence, Satan. You are cast for a millennial reign of peace, bound in the Sahara Desert." And so, yeah, that's where all that comes from. And so Noah is likewise the Jacob winner, getting the birthright blessing through Set, the additional child after Abel is murdered, rather than coming through Cain as it's supposed to be from the Egyptian story. And so here you have Esau eating red pottage and losing his birthright to Jacob. All the same thing, just told in a different story form for you. And so Esau has no problem losing the birthright. He doesn't want to die. And then we get to chapter 26, and Mommy pulls another stunt. She now tells, because Isis was doing the same thing, she was telling Horus what to do to win this battle, and so she was the one that said, put special sauce on the salad and make them eat it. And all the other contest stuff. But that was what caused Horus to win. But they keep on going. I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham. I will make thy seed to multiply as the signs in the heavens, stars of the heaven. And I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. And so Isaac dwells in Gerar. God of gods, the male god. And so the father of the king called Isaac Abimelech. Ab father, Melech king, called Isaac. He's a Philistine now. Oh, we had Syrians and Hittites, now we're Philistines. And Canaanites, we had Canaanites, now it's Philistines. It's a completely different story now. You have to separate all of these stories out, but the author put them all together as a historical narrative. That's causing confusion to people. And so, yes, Isaac with Rebekah. Yes, Rebekah is a beautiful name, but because this has to do with the Hebrew Bible, I call her Rebekah. Rebekah. But she is my sister. Oh, that sounds familiar. Yeah, it's because it's the same exact story, told with different characters rather than Abraham and Sarah. Abram and Sarai. And so, again, you should already know by now, oh, Rebekah is going to give birth with Pharaoh's child, Jacob and Esau. But they already gave birth to Jacob and Esau, didn't they? Yeah, the heel. And so they switched it this time. This story is supposed to come before the birth of the kids. The author learned from making the mistake the first time around. And so, yeah, this is out of order technically. This should go previous to chapter 25. This should be 25, and 25 should be 26. And one of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou should have brought guiltness upon us. How could you have done this to me? You said she was your sister. Yeah, she's the queen of Pharaoh. That's how it's done. But they've got to tell a story and blah blah blah, distance from Egypt and blah blah blah. And so, yeah. And so Pharaoh gives birth to Jacob and Esau, not Isaac. Abraham couldn't do it. Isaac couldn't do it. Took Pharaoh to do it. So yeah, isn't this sex and violence stuff boring? Wouldn't you have rather have gone to church on Sunday to listen to the teacher read directly from the manual and do stunts that are described in the manual to do? Here's a blank sheet of paper. This represents your spirit, blank. And now I'm going to draw on it all the revelations you're having. You know, crap like that. Isn't that more exciting than listening to sex and violence from the Bible? Yeah, we got this chapter and then 27, and we're done. And so, yeah, here we have a well again. And Beersheba, the well of Sheba. Oh, is that the Queen of Sheba? Yeah? Rehoboth? Huh. That's the, yeah. We are seeing King David here, aren't we? My goodness. Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Huh. Alright. They were the ones after King Solomon that split the kingdom between Judah and Israel. In case you didn't know. And so I'm seeing name similarities here. Beersheba, Rehoboth, and Satan. Yeah. They digged another well and strove for that also, and she called the name of it Sitnah. Set, N, Satan. King Set. The usurper, Pharaoh, who usurped the throne and has the great and abominable church lineage, bloodline, until he has sex with Rebekah. This is just incredible when you know the original language that is being spoken of here. And so then, father of the king went to him from Gerar, and Aha, take on me, one of his friends, Uzath, Pikol, the chief captain of his army. Oh, Uriah? The Hittite? Oh, it's Philistine now, huh? Alright, so this is where we get to Esau rebelling. And he called it Sheba. Bathsheba. Beersheba unto this day. The Roman period? Really? That's how you're going to justify it, huh? And so Esau is 40 years old when he takes the wife of the latter-day Mormon Moses, the Christ, Judith. That's the mother. I've gone over it with you. Judith, Judah, who betrays his brother Joseph, sells him into Egypt to become the Christ of Mormons. Judas betrays the Christ of Mormons with the president of the church, who is the high priest of the church, Caiaphas. Peter, Sarah, Caiaphas, Matthew 26. They betray the Christ, want him murdered. And so, yeah, we're back to Hittites again. Judith is the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Bashemoth, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And he's just going back to his family roots. What's wrong with that? Why are they the great and abominable church? I don't understand. They had temple rituals. That's carved on the place where they had the rituals, just like Egypt had them carved in the temple walls as you went through the temple in the various stages. Likewise, the Hittites had the same pattern. And they had the temple robes too. And so, which were a grief of mind unto Isaac and Rebekah. You know, if you're gonna give a wife, because Rebekah She's a Hittite. Why are they upset with Esau? Again, it's a separate story. Because if you put them together and you try to call it literal history, you're going to get confused. And so, yes, Judah, Judith, Judas, they're all the same as Utah. The ones who will betray their Christ in the latter days, just as they are the sons of those who murdered the first Christ of Mormonism, Joseph Smith Jr., 2 Nephi chapter 3. That man is the Christ. And so Esau hates Jacob, plans to slay him. Oh, now you become Canaan, or Cain, and want to murder him. So again, it's a completely different story here. But here we have Samson, who is blinded at the end and dies to destroy the great and abominable church at the temple, Bruce. Building. Dear God, Bruce R. Bruce R. McConkie does all these chapter headings. And he put for Samson that they tied him to a building and plucked out his eyes. What building, Bruce? It's the temple, Bruce. Why aren't you calling it the temple, Bruce? That has to do with the great and abominable church, Bruce. I thought you would know no better now than you will know then. Were you lying to us? Yeah. Yes, he was. And so, yeah, Isaac is now blinded. And handing over the birthright blessing, well, the blessing this time, to Jacob. And for which sets up the whole scenario. This should have been put with the new name. They blew this. It's because they do not understand their scriptures. And so if you have a teacher 1 week who talks about this and does as well as I do for you, then you get another teacher that comes the next week talking about this, where I'm wanting to keep it going because people are going to get confused when they hear this stuff, because they're going to have all sorts of questions for the other teacher, and the other teacher isn't going to know anything because they're just reading the manual to you. That's so frustrating. One of the weaknesses in the church. And they say, oh no, God's will, it'll magically work. There'll be people in the audience who, when you're teaching, they'll connect with the Spirit, and then other person, and it doesn't matter that we get it all harmonized. It doesn't matter that we teach correct doctrine to the church. Oh my God! Where's a wall to bang my head against? Dear God. And so again, you see Isis telling her son Horus what to do to usurp the blessing here. This is all part of the same battle of Horus and Set. Alright, and so bring me venison, savory meat, that I may eat, and eat before the Lord before my death. That's his last meal, last supper. Venison. See how the last days supper of the Lamb at the temple of the wedding feast. See how that's playing in here? Red deer. Venison. Cool. Deer. Dinner time. And so he also doesn't want just deer. Apparently he wants 2 good kids of the goats. Oh, separate the sheep from the goats, huh? Gotcha. So again, goat meat. The great and abominable church. But those have become the clothes. A lamb in goat's clothing. I'm smooth skinned. Esau's hairy. He'll know. So yeah, get the goat skins. So yes, the tail of the goat beast. It's coming to an Ash Wednesday near us. It's coming. Dun 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 dun. I am Esau, Father. Like hell you are. I curse you, or I curse your son. And so there's Mountain Dew again. Awesome. Not only in the selections from the Book of Moses is Mountain Dew approved drink of Mormons, right here, Genesis 27:28. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven. Yes. Mountain Dew, you need me as your advertising person. And so, yeah, the Christ is now supposed to come through Jacob. Alrighty. And so Isaac finds out that it wasn't Esau, it was Jacob, and he says, oh, I knew it all the time. I didn't make a mistake. I knew what I was doing. I wasn't fooled. Okay, Dad. Sure. Alright, Dad. You just lie down. And so, yeah, Esau, in this famous line, Genesis 27, verse 36, and Esau said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. Notice 2 times. And so Joseph Smith is usurped, supplanted the first time, and then from the great and abominable church will come the supplanting of the restorer of Joseph Smith's organization, which likewise applies to the birth or the original kingdom of the 18th dynasty, which they even claim that they had usurped it from the Hyksos to restore the original of Osiris. And King David, who added 5 days to the calendar to give birth to Osiris and Set. All part and parcel. Alrighty, and so Esau's pissed, wants to murder Jacob, and so then we have the angel battle. I already did that thing for you, but first we have Jacob's ladder and his seed with the new name. Before that, so yeah, Esau marries a daughter of Ishmael now. Okay, but that's 28. That's next week. And yeah, we might not get to that one. And so yeah, flee unto Laban, my brother. Yeah, cousins. Hey cousin, what's up? first cousins even. So yes, Rebekah's brother is Laban in Haran, as we saw that he's a Hittite. And so stay with him for a few days, as it ends up being a whole lifetime. See, these ancients, the Roman period, a person's lifespan was 33 years. Oh, wait, that's when Jesus died. And so, earlier, it's still a low age. That's why you had to marry as soon as puberty hit, to start having kids, to keep human race alive. Nowadays we can get people over 100, and we have the 100 Club, and the person who's the oldest human on Earth is now getting up to 115 years of age. But dear God. So let's make sure I got everything that we wanted to make sure was covered. Oh yeah, we're going to do facsimile 3 for you. I sort of covered it. You should know. If you don't know, what were you doing during all this time? Going to the manual, reading it while I'm talking into a blank screen? I can't find this in the manual, Travis. Alright, so Abraham is listed as number 1. He's Pharaoh, because he's Abraham in Egypt. And so again, the facsimile, or figure number 3, signifies Abraham in Egypt. But facsimile number 1, figure number 10, he's supposedly in Ur of Babylon, that did not exist yet for another 600 years at least, and so it's Egypt. It's not Mesopotamia. Do you not understand this? Why are you resisting and fighting this? Why aren't you trusting Joseph Smith? He knows what he's talking about, because I know what he's talking about. They're Egyptians. So the Egyptian pharaoh is involved. Melchizedek. Amen. I do these videos for a purpose, guys. And so Abraham is a pharaoh of Egypt. But the stories, because they're not literal history, changes. And so he goes to see Pharaoh and gives up his wife, and the wife gets pregnant by Pharaoh, but Abraham is considered the child, or the father of the baby daddy. You're missing the point of the story. So for Joseph Smith to call Abraham Pharaoh, okay, we understand what you're doing, or at least I do. I don't know why Egyptologists don't. And so Hatshepsut, he calls him Pharaoh. Figure number 2, King Pharaoh, whose name is given in the characters above his head. Well, it's her head. He knows this. He knows the difference between female and male. Anybody can by looking at the pictures. But nonetheless, Hatshepsut. And so if you know the story of Hatshepsut, and how David Moses II died early before David Moses III is old enough to take over the throne, and so she tells the Amen priesthood of Melchizedek, hey guys, my mother, the queen, had given birth to me from Father Amen, from outer space. He came to her in her chambers and had sex with her, and I am the offspring. Oh, whew, okay, good job. Yeah, you'll be queen and pharaoh until David Moses III is old enough. But she also threw in, well, in the premortal council in heaven, Heavenly Father was talking about what's going to happen on earth to all of us spirit children. And he said that there would come a time in the 18th dynasty that David Moses II would die, too early for David Moses III to take over the throne, and I was foreordained in the premortal council in heaven to be Pharaoh during this interim. Good job. Yeah, we'll go with that. And so the Amun priesthood coronated Hatshepsut, Pharaoh of Egypt. And why do Egyptologists not know this? And so this is why Joseph Smith has King Pharaoh female separated from Abraham, because of the Bible stories separating Pharaoh from Abraham. They can't be the same. And so there you have Rebekah and Isaac. They're getting married. But Joseph does make a mistake. Oops. And so you see figure 4, which is Ma'at, the scales of judgment, in her female form as a human, rather than the scales of judgment form with her head or the thing that's on the head of her head on the top of the scales of judgment. She's the actual personification of the wife of the Prince of Egypt. But Joseph Smith makes a mistake and calls her the Prince of Egypt rather than Isaac, who is the guy with the other weird thing on the top of his head instead. And she calls him Shulam, one of the king's principal waiters. No. That's the Prince of Egypt, Prince of Pharaoh, and he's marrying. They're holding hands. That's what you do when you're getting married. As other Egyptian pictures show this for wedding feasts. And so, yes, the prince is marrying the last day's supper of the Lamb at the wedding feast in the temple. That's what this is all about. As we just went over it with Isaac and Rebekah for the last day's wedding supper feast of the Lamb at the temple. And so yes, you have to have a person who is the escort through the temple. If you've ever gone through the temple for the first time, you have an escort with you. And if you don't have your dad or mom, whether you're male or female going through, or a family member, the temple will provide you with one of the temple workers to go through with you, to help you through the whole process, put on your robe correctly, and so forth. And so, a slave belonging to the prince, yeah, he's helping him make sure he does all the right things for the temple rituals. He's a temple worker. And so, reasoning upon the principles of astronomy, yeah, the latter-day signs in the heavens about this. 8 April 2024. And that's the translation for this passage right here. 8 April 2024. Alrighty. Just make sure I still got everything. 18th dynasty Egypt, Syrians, Horus and Set. Reverse usurping. And so, yeah, it would have been nice, but if they carried the lesson to the new name, daughter of the house of God. Okay. And then, so, yeah, the last days will reward those of you who endured to the end. For the latter days, your Mormon Christ, as I did the date, I doubt you checked. It was a Tuesday. Tuesday is Mars Day from the Roman calendar naming. So Tuesdays is the day of Mars. Sunday, Monday, Moon Day, Tuesday, Mars Day. And if you speak Italian, French, Spanish, You'd recognize that. But that's when he was born. And Mars, as I've gone over with you, is the false Christ of the great and abominable church in the signs in the heavens during all these latter days. And and so for the true Mormon Christ to be born on Tuesday, yeah, he's doing the second usurpation to restore the original. The foundation cornerstone that the Mormons rejected has become the capstone of the latter-day millennial church. Not the chief cornerstone of the cornerstone, so said the false Christ of the great and abominable church, who, when he dies, the 666 president of the church will take over. So, yeah, don't you want the great and abominable church to win and succeed? The church of Lucifer, of the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors of their temple. Samson gets married in that temple, by the way. The lion house for the wedding feast, next to the beehive house. I do these videos, I tell you things. And so, yes, Jupiter is usurping Mars. That is your Sunday school lesson for today. As Ash Wednesday is in the month of Mars. That's when he was born. On the day of Mars, in the month of Mars. Usurping back what was usurped originally. So, that is the lesson for Sunday school. Jacob, even though is the bad guy, he is the good guy, usurping back what had been usurped. Alrighty, we're done. An hour and 42 minutes, huh? Great. Isn't that special? I'm in the mood for sleep. And do you ever listen to those lyrics back in those days? Oh my goodness, they're so perverted. Simply because you're near me. And it was 21 years of age as an adult. And they're talking about 16-year-old girls. Sweet 16. She's just 16 years old. Oh my God. Go away, little girl. And even It's a Wonderful Life, 18. Oh, still jailbait. I am 16, going on 17. I am jailbait for you.